Okay, so I was gonna make a video after I finished this entire swap, but I thought I would do some updates in between. So first off, this is like an '02 or an '03 Dana 60. So I made this truss out of some half-inch wall, 3/4 inch tube, welded to the casting. I didn't finish the welds here. I used 7018 stick rod, 1/8 inch diameter for the welds. Same thing for the tubes. It has 373 gears right now. I'm gonna put 513s in there, probably the cheapest set I could find. Then I made these little coil buckets. I mean, I'll put some straps down for the coils to sit. Nothing crazy, just tack them to place. But one of the first problems I've already come to, I always wondered why the truss is always sat a little bit higher. So I was like, oh, I don't want my lift to be changed. So I try to make it somewhat low profile. This is only an inch from the top of this down to the center of the tube. So theoretically, it shouldn't change my lift that much. I think the stock Cherokees are roughly around an inch. So I made this coil bucket and I went to make a similar one on this side. And well, yeah, you could see it's a little different. But the problem is, and it makes sense why all the trusses sit a little bit higher with their coil buckets. This center hole needs to be moved over roughly an inch. That's the center of the coil bucket. So for this to be moved over an inch, sure, that's fine. I have plenty of space. I cut all this space out just for that. But when you put, when you put the coil bucket or the coil in there, I mean, it's an inch over and it barely, you barely have enough space, probably 3/8 of an inch. So for the coil to be in the right location, it'd have to be somewhere up like that. And I might end up doing that. I just want to put this in and see how it's going to work. But I purposely kind of propped this up and ground this casting down a little bit so it was angled in a little bit. So my hopes are that when this is in there like that, you could kind of see it has a little bit of an angle coming in. That might help me or it might hurt me. I'm not really exactly sure, but like I said, it's just tacked, and if I have to remake them, it's not the end of the world. So what I did yesterday is I made this upper control arm bracket. It's not fully welded. It's made out of 3/8 inch thick steel. So that's gonna go just like that roughly. And I'm gonna weld all the way around there. I did mess up though, and this is gonna be my upper length. I'm gonna cut it and sleeve it so it's longer. This came from some other guy's project. But as you can see, there's a ton of space in there. So, I mean, I think I'll just put washers in. In my head, it should be fine. And this is my lower control arm mount that happened to break. But that's gonna go there. That's for this side. So now I'm going to make another one of these lower control arm brackets, but flip it the other way and then cut it up so it fits on this casting. As you can see, most people end up cutting this 2 inches to fit a truss, but because I'm doing my own custom setup, because I'm cheap and I can't buy a truss, that's what we're gonna do. So I'll update you guys when I have a cardboard template. Okay, so this is the cardboard template I made. I forgot to cut out the center hole, but this is what I came up with. It's a little rough around the edges. It's kind of about to fall apart, but it sits up just like that. I had to cut a little bit of the housing that went down to there, but that's fine. And I have a little bit of adjustment from there to there. If I want it to go farther down, I just have to grind off that little corner right there. But I mean, so then not too bad. Just gonna weld all those up. That got a little messed up. That's okay. Okay, so most of the welds are all finished up with this thing. So some sketchiness. We got a stainless steel truss to mild steel, which creates a brittle material if you just use normal welding rod. That's what I did on all the welds, including the truss. So hopefully it holds. Over here, there is too big of a gap to fill with a stick rod. All this was taking me way too long anyway with the stick welder. I went through like 30 rods or something. You could see them all thrown over the ground and a bunch back over there. And then the cast iron. Because of the stupid way I designed this, I had to weld it the cast iron. Going back, I should have really just spent the $450 or so to put a truss on this thing, and I wouldn't have had to do any of this sketchy stuff. But that's what that Dana 60 back there is for. It's the same exact thing. So when something bad does happen on this, hopefully I could just buy the truss for that one and swap it over and actually buy brackets. So that's all I got done. That took me like over 2 hours. I still haven't touched any of the frame side mounts, but those shouldn't be too difficult. There's no gaps really on them. Of course, I wish I had a better welder than a stick welder. I mean, I do have a MIG, but I'm not really comfortable MIG welding this. It's not really structurally sound. So I'll continue tomorrow. Okay, so we're about to weld this Dana 60 open differential. Hopefully I can use these bearings again and use the 373 ring gears, because this is going to be as cheap as possible. But I got the oxyacetylene torch here with the rosebud tip, and I'm going to try and burn out all the gear oil and contaminants. And I'm still debating if I want to stick weld it or MIG weld it. I feel like I'm a better stick welder, but MIG welding might be easier to get in all the weird spots and to make sure there's no slag. So we'll see what happens, but I'll show you how I heat this up. I can't tell if this is the oil burning or the acetylene, but it's all soot in there now. So now I'm really thinking about stick welding it. Even though it kind of looks like, yeah, it kind of looks like that's soot because there's burnt oil on that. Yeah, I think that's soot from the burnt oil. Thank good. Alright, I forgot to film this part, but let me get my flashlight. So I definitely screwed the bearings, I'm thinking. And that is the ugliness of the day. So as you saw in the video clip, this thing is so hot. It burns my freaking shoe. So yeah, pretty gnarly. Dang, I could just feel the heat resonating from that thing. So yeah, I did a 60-10 route with the stick welder with most of the joint welds. I don't know if stick welding it was the way, but I feel like that was a good move. I feel like I've really got in there. Then I used some 7018 going up there and then on the other side because it was easy, and 7018's nice. And then I MIG welded the crap out of it on full power on this little Lincoln Electric 180. And it welded pretty good, but I will say, like, underneath there's a gap in there, and I really didn't want to fill that in. So let me know in the comments if you guys think that that's going to be a problem. All right, everybody. Yesterday, you might have saw we welded the LSD in the Sterling 10.5. Today, we are going to be welding the tubes with some 6010 1/8 electrodes. Gonna try and do it kind of like a pipe weld, as in running it downhill. Never really done that before. Before that, I had the oxyacetylene torch with the rosebud, and I'm going to try and heat up the housing to 450 degrees, and I'm going to check that with one of these digital thermometers. After I make the first pass, I'm going to peen it just a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy. As well as then relighting the oxyacetylene, keeping it a general temperature. Then in between some heat cycles, I'm going to grind the starts of the weld and then do it again. Once I do that, I'll peen that side, keep it a similar temperature once again, then wrap it up with my old leather gloves and wrap some blankets around it, and we'll start on the next side and do the same process. So we'll see. I've never really welded downhill before. I don't even know if it's going to work in this application because it's a fillet weld and it's not just laying flat. I'm sure you guys know, but I think it's worth a shot. And I'm thinking, because I'm thinking of using 6010, and especially 6010 downhill, that way I can carry way more heat and burn out whatever crud is in that seam. So let's get started. so that I don't think went as well as I hoped. As you can see in that last clip, I covered it, but I have been hearing a little clicking and clacking, something almost like that. So I think that's the weld cracking. I think it's mainly coming from this side, and we'll see how it looks, but my suspicion is the weld just wasn't good enough. We'll see what happens. It might be good, but that's the first time I've ever welded 60-10 downhill. And of course I'm doing it on something important. Okay, so it's the next day. I just wanted to make a quick clip. Turns out the welds did not crack. I've been looking at them. Definitely could have welded it better though. For instance, here there's like basically nothing holding it together. So it sucks. I kind of want to go back and try and re-weld some spots, but they're not the worst thing in the world. So I think I'm just going to leave it and continue with the swap. But yeah.